the Function with Purpose podcast. All things health, wellness, fitness, and education with a physical therapy perspective. I am Dr. Amy Bullock, owner and founder of Fortress Physical Therapy. Fortress PT is here to serve the Charlotte metro area by highlighting the importance of how and why physical therapy should be a part of your health and wellness lifestyle. Here we go. Episode 1 of the FPT Function with Purpose podcast. Dr. Amy here. Nice to finally make this a 2021 goal. But I just wanted to introduce this podcast and the purpose of this podcast. Tell you a little bit about myself, where I came from, how I became a physical therapist, and how I opened up my own cash-based physical therapy clinic here in Pineville, North Carolina. So, who am I? All right. Well, I've been practicing physical therapy for, 8 years now. It will be 8 years this summer. And grew up playing sports my whole life. So, I was a triathlete. I played basketball, soccer, and softball. And growing up with two older brothers, I kind of played with the boys all the time, and I think that helped prepare me down the road when I started playing basketball at the college level. So, I grew up with two brothers. I'm from a small town in West Virginia called Follinsby, West Virginia. So if you guys are familiar with our state, we are located near the Pennsylvania border as well as Ohio border. So I grew up in the northern panhandle of West Virginia, pretty close to Wheeling, West Virginia. And in reference to Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, about maybe 25 miles west of Pittsburgh. So not too far from the biggest city near me. I was actually born in Ohio, in a town called Steubenville, Ohio, and just grew up in West Virginia right across the river ever since, and played sports my whole life. I was definitely the athletic person out of my family. I have two older brothers. My oldest brother, he and his family, they have two little girls, my nieces Harbor and Avalon. Right now, Avalon is 6.5 and Harbor is 3.5. And he and his wife, Melissa, they live in Huntington, West Virginia, and they're both physicians. They're doctors of osteopathy. So they met in med school and hit it off ever since. And so my brother, Matt, he's an orthopedic surgeon. And my sister-in-law is in hospice palliative care. And so they live in Huntington, West Virginia, which is close to the Kentucky border, or some people may be familiar with that area where Marshall University is located. So my older brother, prior to becoming a surgeon, he was a physical therapist. And that kind of started me down my journey to becoming a physical therapist. I'll dig into that here a little bit. Now, my other brother, Daniel, now both my brothers, they're both older than me. So Matt, my eldest, he's my oldest brother, of course. I just said that. And my other older brother, Daniel, he lives in New York City. So he is a professor. He teaches English as a second language at NYU. He also works for the United Nations. He's actually in the process of publishing a book on how to communicate effectively. So shout out to my brother there. You guys can pre-order your book on Amazon. He's a very good writer and a very good speaker. So he works at some other colleges as well and teaches English as a second language in New York City. He's been there, probably about 15 years now, I would say. Um, so yeah, and I reside in South Charlotte or Charlotte, North Carolina. I've been here about 8 years, which is how long I've been practicing physical therapy. And, it is the year 2021 now. So finally, um, my mom retired down here. Oh my gosh, it took 3 years to reel her in, but, I think the, 2020 pandemic um, actually had a little bit more positives than negatives for my family last year. And my mom finally being able to retire down here was a huge positive. Um, so, okay, well, that kind of gives you a little bit of a background of me and growing up. And so now, how did I become a physical therapist? So, I did mention before that my eldest brother, before he became a surgeon, he was a physical therapist. And I remember him going through physical therapy school, and he would come home on weekends. He went to WVU, West Virginia University, and I remember him using me as a guinea pig, performing what we call in the physical therapy world manipulations on the neck and the back and the arms and the legs. So I would be his practice patient. So I would let him crack my neck, crack my back, and I thought that was like the coolest thing ever. And thought, you know what, I think I want to get into doing something like this. So that kind of paved my way to the journey of becoming a physical therapist. So my education background is my undergraduate degree is in athletic training, so I have a bachelor's in athletic training. I went to athletic training school at West Virginia Wesleyan College, which is about an hour south of WVU, West Virginia University. So West Virginia Wesleyan is in a town called Buchanan, West Virginia. And for those of you who may be West Virginia natives, it is actually located pretty close within a holler. And a holler is two big hills on either side, and a road just runs right in the middle of it. And I love that school. That's definitely my alma mater, and I miss it very much. There was probably only about, at the time when I graduated from there in '09, maybe about 1,300 total students, undergraduate and graduate. So it's a very small campus. And so in the process of graduating, I applied to physical therapy school. However, I didn't get in. And I thought, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? Like, I don't want to just quit the education route. So I had to quickly come up with an alternative, and I actually ended up attending Slippery Rock University up in Slippery Rock, Pennsylvania, to obtain my master's degree. And my master's degree is in adapted physical activity. So it's kind of like adaptive physical education, except it covers the lifespan. So all the way from infant to geriatric population, and working with individuals with intellectual and physical disabilities. So that program was in its second year of existence, and um, funny thing, looking back on it now, I was supposed to be there. I was supposed to not be in physical therapy school at that time because my father got very, very sick. And Slippery Rock was pretty close to my hometown where I grew up. So it was about like an hour and 15-minute drive. So my master's program was only 1 year long, but every weekend I would drive home to help care for my father and relieve my mother um, from caring for him. Unfortunately, my father's not around anymore. He's been gone about 10 years. And, you know, it does suck, but as far as paving my education route to becoming a physical therapist, I was supposed to be home for a reason, and that was to help my dad, during a very bad time. And needless to say, I reapplied to physical therapy school after my master's program, and I got in. I actually landed like 6 offers from different schools. So that led me to attending University of Findlay in Findlay, Ohio, which is the western part of Ohio, so pretty close to Indiana, um, kind of like Michigan area, where Bowling Green University is. Some of y'all might be familiar with that. And physical therapy school was 3 years long. And, long story short, when my dad was sick, he passed 2 weeks before I went to physical therapy school. And, it happened for a reason, but my dad knew where each of us kids were. He knew I was going to physical therapy school. He knew my eldest brother. Actually, at that time, my Matt was living in Perrysburg, which is about 45 minutes north of Findlay, Ohio. And then my other brother Daniel, was in New York and in the process of eventually getting his master's in English as a second language. So, going back to leading down the physical therapy path, I did physical therapy school for 3 years and actually landed a job in Danville, Virginia, which is just over the border, directly north from Greensboro, North Carolina. And literally to the day, I was there for exactly 1 year and came back to South Charlotte and worked at Caramount Rehab, their outpatient sports medicine clinic, for about 2 years. Um, and I knew I wanted to be in Charlotte because I do have family here. My uncle and aunt live here, and they've been here for well over 30 years. So, um, worked in Gastonia at an outpatient clinic for 2 years, and that kind of led my interest to do a fellowship. So, after about a year working at Caramount, I thought, that like this is it. Like I'm just a conveyor belt in this hospital outpatient clinic where you bring a patient in and you send them off to the physical therapist assistant or the aide, and they do the exercise with them. It's all about getting the evaluations in. So, I got exposed to the American Academy of Manipulative Therapy Fellowship early. I became dry needle certified in 2014. And from then on in, I started saving up money for my fellowship. So I completed my fellowship in 2018 through the American Academy of Manipulative Therapy. And that led me down the pathway of opening my own physical therapy clinic. In fact, within our CrossFit gym here in South Charlotte, my office is now located within CrossFit Pineville, and I am a CrossFit level 2 coach. At that time, I was a level 1 coach coaching at CFP. And I remember when I first started coaching there, I told the owners, Michelle and Brandon Shook, especially Michelle, we connected very well, and I said, one day I'm gonna have a clinic here, and I don't know when. We're gonna do it. I don't know how I'm doing it, but we're gonna do it. And by gosh, my clinic was born, Fortress Physical Therapy, in 2018, and it's been a journey ever since. And I feel like at this point, not being affiliated with insurance based companies, yet alone working for a hospital or someone else, working for yourself has been scary at times as well as valued most of the time. Um, so the way that Fortress Physical Therapy is set up is I just have a small room within our gym, and I see patients pretty much on an as needed basis, but the goal is to get them to the point where they kind of do check ins every 4 to 6 weeks, and um, I just try to make sure that everything's in line and they understand proper movement and quality of movement over quantity of movement. So, yeah, that kind of really makes me feel like I'm actually giving value to people. And that my education is being shown through them, how I'm able to teach these athletes and people within the public and educate the public as much as possible that physical therapy is more than just table exercises and TheraBand and getting you out of pain. It's about avoiding pain and moving well, moving often, functioning with purpose. So that will be for another episode. But yeah, I think this kind of concludes the first episode of the Function with Purpose podcast, telling about my journey and how I became a physical therapist, and then eventually opening up Fortress Physical Therapy. Thanks for the listen, and on to episode 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8. All right. Talk to you guys later. That's a wrap for today's episode, Function with Purpose podcast. For more information on this episode, check out the show notes within your podcast app. Be sure to subscribe, like, share, or drop your comments and questions below. You can also follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and LinkedIn. Thanks for the listen. Pursuit, precision, purpose.